You're watching Deadlock videos to get better, but there's an issue that a lot of people aren't really taking into consideration, and it's been on my mind a lot recently. And I've noticed this in a wide range of games. It is not just Deadlock. So what I'm about to go over in this video will not just help you in Deadlock, it'll help you in all sorts of other games if you're trying to improve. So the videos that you're watching don't match your level of play, and this is a problem. Now, it's not just a problem for viewers either, it's also a problem for creators. And real quick, I just wanna make it very, very clear. I clickbaited you slightly, not a ton, but just slightly, all right? You can still watch the videos that I'm about to talk about. You just really need to understand what's going on and what's gonna help and what's not. So, what do I mean? Well, let me introduce you to the bell curve, all right? And what's interesting is I actually had this whole bell curve idea in my head, and then I realized over on TrackLock, they already have a bell curve, and it's not just, a theory anymore. This literally shows the bell curve in Deadlock. So here is where the worst of the worst players are, all the way on the left. And over here on the right is where the best of the best players are. Now, if you're watching this video, there's a really good chance that you're right here in the middle. And this is what the bell curve looks like in a variety of scenarios. There are people on the extreme left and the extreme right, but the major distribution of people is right here in the middle. Now, the problem is that a lot of the videos that you're watching and a lot of the videos that get the most views are discussing the meta for people way over here. But like we were just saying, you're right here in the middle. Now, I'm gonna show you some data and we're gonna compare it to some tier lists. But before we get started in this section of the video, I wanna say this with the biggest possible disclaimer, okay? The creators I'm about to use as an example, I absolutely love them, and I do not think they're doing anything wrong. I just don't think people are taking into account the creator's level of play versus their own. So these are tier lists from two of my favorite creators, Deathy and Average Jonas. They're both really smart players and understand the game at a high level, but I regularly notice that their tier lists are not anywhere near my experience. And this happens a lot in another game that I also play, a little digital card game by the name of Marvel Snap. There are a lot of people who do tier lists of, the best decks out there in this card game, and it's not the experience that a lot of people are having. So when looking at these tier lists, we need to recognize what our level of play is. And I just wanna make it very clear too. Remember this bell curve? I'm with you. I'm right here in this middle section. So when looking at these tier lists, I think Haze is a very prime example of what's going on. So let's look at this because she's regularly ranked very low on these tier lists from top level players. But the overall data for all players disagrees with where her placement is on these tier lists. So what you're looking at now is data from TrackLock. Now, TrackLock doesn't have all of the data, but it's the best data that we have, and they have hundreds of thousands of games to gather this data from. So, as you can see, Haze has the second highest win rate overall and the #1 pick rate, okay? So let that sink in. Out of all the heroes in Deadlock, when Haze is in a game, she has the second highest win rate overall. This means when you take all of the different rankings together, she has the second highest win rate, only below Warden. But let's take a look at what happens when I filter the ranking for Eternus only. Check this out. She drops down to almost the bottom. Now, whenever we see something like this, we have to start asking ourselves, why? This is because at the top level of play, people are playing better and smarter because they understand the importance of how to counter heroes and what to do. If you watch videos from top level players, they're regularly saying that Hayes is not a great hero. All you have to do is buy metal skin. All you have to do is buy return fire. But the issue is that when you're sitting here on the bell curve, in the average game, this is not what people are doing. I have hundreds and hundreds of hours in Deadlock, and regularly, I am one of the only people in the entire server who is buying counter items. Maybe there's like one or two other people on the other team. Maybe if I manage to just convince my team to start buying some of the proper items, they'll do it. But this is not what happens. So there are players like Hayes who could just run around unchecked. And we have a similar scenario with characters like Bebop. So when you look at the win rate overall, again, look at this. Bebop is a B tier hero, okay? But if I filter it to Internus again, Bebop drops way down the list to barely above D tier. Now, I have my own personal theories about this. Like I was saying, a lot of people in the server are just not buying the easy, obvious counter items. I rarely see people buying, items like I just mentioned, metal skin, return fire. But when there are heroes on the other team, like Abrams going around unchecked, Shiv going around unchecked, healing faster than you could do any kind of damage to them. People aren't buying Healbane, they're not buying Decay, they're not buying all of these obvious counter items. You rarely see people, rushing to buy like Unstoppable and items like that. This is something that you can do. This is something that you can learn from these top level players to really improve your game. But the issue is, when you're not queuing as 6 people, there's a good chance that a lot of people are just in there to try to frag out, get as many kills as possible, and just do whatever it is that they wanna do. So again, before I end this video, the moral of the story is that when you're watching videos, you really need to take into consideration your skill level versus the skill level of the person who created the video that you're watching, all right? Because they are playing entirely different games than what you're playing. So I'm not saying do not watch these videos from top level players. There is so much to learn from them. I watch them regularly, and eventually I'm gonna make a video about some of the best players to watch and learn from. But when you're looking at like tier lists and certain strategies and stuff like that, you need to take a step back and take into consideration, okay, what are they seeing in their games versus what I'm seeing in my games? Because they can definitely make you get better, but you just need to understand that there are differences in the servers that you're playing in, all right? But anyways, this video's been on my mind a lot, so I'm glad I was able to finally make it, okay? But that's all I got for this video. If you're new here, my name's Chris. I try to make some Deadlock content regularly, so make sure you like this video, subscribe, keep on coming back, turn that notification bell on, all right? But anyways, have an amazing rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one.